When I was graduating from high school 10 years ago, I didn't really want to be a nurse. I'll be honest about that. I wanted to be a teacher, but I knew if I went to LPN school for 1 year, I could get out, I could be working, and I could then go back to school to be a teacher. Well, I did that, and I fell in love with nursing once I was in it. I didn't have any experience in healthcare before I did that. But life's kind of funny that way. You think you have it all figured out, and then you get a curveball, and that's not what happened. I stayed in the nursing field. I'm living out my dream, I'll tell you. I've got two good worlds that I'm living in that have come together. So actually, I lived in a small town west of here, and I went to a community college in Columbus, Nebraska, and that's where I got my LPN. And a few years later, then I went back to school and got my associate's degree in nursing through the College of St. Mary in Omaha. And many years later, I earned my BSN through Doane Lincoln. I had moved back to Lincoln. My family moved with me, and got my BSN. So it's the relationships that I experienced being a nurse. How I care about my patients and their families, that's been a huge part. How I could advocate for them even when they couldn't advocate for themselves has been a huge, it was a learning curve, but it is a very vital part about who I am, who we are as nurses, I think. Everyone has a story. They have a story that affects their health journey, it's their life journey. And to be there for them, no matter their age or circumstance, that's huge to me. And it's an honor and a privilege. There are many tough days and many tough moments in those tough days, but there are rewards along the way that you can't get in other professions, and that it's worth it.
Becoming a nurse was natural to me. I grew up, my biological mom was an addict. And so, and I was the oldest. So I took care of her and my two younger sisters, and my middle sister has cerebral palsy. So with her addiction issues and the lack of parenting, I kind of fell into that role. But then I actually enjoyed doing it. It wasn't something I felt like I had to do. It just became, it's very natural to me. And I was blessed with foster parents later on who allowed me the opportunity to be a teenager for a few years before I aged out of the system. And so if I feel that if I had wanted to do something else, I would have chosen that time to do that. And instead, that's when I got my CNA and actually started working in healthcare, and knew without a doubt it was what I was going to do. So I'm from Beatrice, born and raised there. So when I was 16, I was part of the first program that you could, if you had really good grades, you could go to school half of the day and go to SCC Beatrice half of the day. So I got my CNA as a junior, and then worked at Beatrice Manor all through the rest of my high school, worked full time pretty much all year round. I call it plant a nugget. You leave little nuggets of whether it be education or encouragement, or hopefully not negativity, but if you're not careful, it will be that. But you leave little nuggets with people. You don't get to see how it grows, but you get to leave nuggets. You get to be there in their best and their worst times. I mean, I've had, even as an LPN, I was never restricted. There were so many things. I did adult and pediatric trach and vent, which you're seeing these parents who have these newborn babies that are ventilated and they've got G buttons, and they're looking at you saying, what do I do if he turns blue? And what, and you're walking them through all of that. As a matter of fact, you're walking alongside of them. You're not in front of or behind. You get to be there in that. I did some hospice. Death can be beautiful. It can be a very peaceful and graceful way. And you can be there for families in jails and prisons. Some of those people genuinely are at their lowest and want to do better, don't believe that they can. And making that connection and trying to educate them on these are the reasons why, giving people a why. We all want to know the why. You can tell me that I have to be somewhere. I'm going to say, well, but why do I have to be there? That's the human side. We all need that and all want that. So doing the same for them, regardless of what population they're in. There's no such thing as burnout in nursing. There's way too many options for nurses to get burnout. If you're burnout, that's because you're making a decision based off of fear to change. And I did that for a while. I was afraid because I've done corrections and I love corrections. But I needed something to keep me home. I was traveling too much.
From a very young age, I've always had a desire to help people. I was influenced along the way by family members who were in the medical profession, sharing their stories of caring for others. And I aspired to be like them and have those same special experiences. So they were role models for me. And I knew I wanted to be a nurse, because nursing has always been such a respected profession. When I graduated from college, it was difficult to find a nursing position because there was no nursing shortage at that time. So began my nursing career working at Memorial Hospital in Aurora. And I worked there for 3 years. Accepted a position at Memorial Healthcare Systems here in Seward in 1996. And I worked as a nurse here for the last 25 years. Working in a small critical access hospital has been very rewarding for me because I care for the people in my community and I assist them, at times when they're probably the most vulnerable. The most experienced nurses learn something every day, so you'll never know everything there is to know in nursing.
My best friend in high school, her parents were both nurses. And so I saw a lot of what they did and it just seemed really, really neat. Her mom was in a lot of different areas of nursing. And I like the science of nursing. the science of medicine, and then I like that no two shifts are ever the same. I think you're always a nurse. The people, especially people find out you're a nurse, they're always asking you questions like, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Or, hey, do you know about this? Or so you're like always a nurse.
I come from a family of teachers. My dad was a teacher. I have 3 brothers who were teachers and nieces, and so that's what I was going to do, be a teacher. But this nurse recruiter came to our high school, and I was very impressed. So that's that I decided to go to the hospital. It was a hospital school of nursing at that time. Decided to do that. Made a lot of friends, worked with a lot of different nurses and, staff and patients, families, just met a lot of people. There is some empathy toward helping people, and you're not always going to get nice people. Some people can be real problems, but you just have to go with the flow and be able to take whatever is thrown at you, basically. Yeah, it's a good profession. There's always a need for nurses. It's hard work, but it's very rewarding. I'm always telling my family what they should do. You shouldn't be eating that or that. And I've got two daughters that are nurses, so we share a lot of experiences, and they tell me stuff, But 2 of the hardest things that I did in nursing was to go from manually charting to computers, because I was in my 70s when we did that. So it was hard for me, but I did it. And the other thing was giving up my nursing license. That was a hard thing to do.
So I kind of always found myself interested in medical shows, and one I really liked was Emergency. So I had wanted to be a paramedic. Ambulance Lincoln was offering. I joined that and learned to take blood pressures and pulses and go to county and state fairs. And then at school, I started riding the ambulance once a week. And so then once I did that, I experienced working out pre-hospital, and then I had decided that I would actually prefer to be a bedside nurse, just because I wanted to get to know my patients, kind of see the beginning and the end of their journey. I love being a nurse because it is rewarding. It also can be very challenging, but I like that I can make a difference in somebody's life. Sometimes it's a happy ending, and sometimes it's a sad ending, but I feel like I can be a part of their journey together. To be a good nurse, you have to be compassionate, empathetic, and a very good listener with good communication skills. One of the things I've learned is to be non-judgmental and understanding that everyone deals with stress and grief differently. and that everyone has their own story. One of the things I've learned is that you always think we have to be tough, when we're dealing with our patients and our families, but it's okay to show your emotions, to grieve with them during difficult times.